Next question was, how was your weight gain curve? And any advice on dealing with feelings of guilt from decreasing amount/intensity of exercise? Once I've recovered, how can I get back into exercise comfortably without worrying about losing my period again? Can you continue to lift heavy in the gym as long as you lower the intensity? Can I try to lose weight again after getting my period back? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited again. I feel like I've been starting my videos like that off every single time saying, oh my god, I'm excited. But I am, because I feel like every time I'm like, ooh, I'm chatting with you guys again, like we're catching up, we're getting to hang out again. Anyways, today is going to be my HA Q&A part 2. So I already have a part 1 that I did back in December. I'll link that up here if you want to go watch it. And so yeah, now I'm doing another one. Thank you guys so much for everybody who submitted questions. You guys asked really good questions and I'm excited to just get into it, and I really hope this is helpful. If you haven't already, don't forget to like this video. It really helps out my channel and my videos, and subscribe if you're down. I'd love to have you along with our little community that we're growing. And yeah, I'm just gonna get into it because I know I'm gonna have a lot to say to answer all these questions. I'm also not gonna give you a background of my personal case of HA. If you have any questions about my case of HA, I have plenty of videos on my channel that you can go watch as well. So let's get started. So I feel like this is a good one to start with. Somebody asked, where did you research for the information about HA recovery? Again, didn't necessarily receive any professional help to learn more about HA, but I researched a lot online just from different credible sources. Like I just would be surfing the web. But a big person that I really learned a lot from was Dr. Jade Teta. He has a podcast called the Next Level Human Podcast. 100% recommend him. Even recently, he's posted some more podcasts about the female metabolism and how like estrogen and progesterone play a role in everything, and just like educates you on the female hormones, which I think all of us as women should really understand how the cycle works and how we can train to work with our cycle. And way back, probably about a year ago now, he has a podcast called Training with Metabolic Dysfunction that goes over how you can train to kind of get your period back. And he's how I learned that weight training and walking is really good forms of exercise to keep in while you are trying to recover from HA. Next question was, how was your weight gain curve? I actually surprisingly only gained about like 5 pounds and I got my period back, but this is actually really important. Now that I think about it, overall, I gained about 7 or 8 pounds overall initially. My lowest weigh-in like ever when I didn't have my period was 127.6 pounds. I'm 5'6" and have a decent amount of muscle on me, so that was pretty light for me. But then I didn't weigh myself for a long time, so I didn't necessarily weigh myself like right when I started recovery, but that was the last weigh-in that I had. Then at one point I got up to 135 during recovery, but then without even trying, my body leveled back out at like 132 to 133. So I ended up losing a couple pounds without even trying, and I think that's just because my body was kind of leveling out, getting used to the different calorie intake and just simply like balancing out and getting back to my set point. But I feel like that's important to note because weight gain scares so many people, but like I hope me saying that helps you and like assures you and comforts you, and knowing that like, yes, you may need to gain a little bit more weight than you want to initially, but just have trust, have faith in your body and know that it will level back out to its natural set point where it feels comfortable sitting at. Next question, any advice on dealing with feelings of guilt from decreasing amount/intensity of exercise? I love this question. Now, for me, like this HA recovery, which is like kind of, it's like beautiful in and of itself because it's such a mind game and it's so much like changing your perspective on health and exercise in order to aid yourself in recovery. Because if you think about it, basically the protocol to like heal yourself from HA is just to chill on the exercise and eat more. That sounds like every other American's dream, you know what I mean? So it's really not hard. It's the mental aspect of it that's challenging, you know? And rightfully so, especially when, because all of us are like in the same boat where we love health and exercise and wellness and all that good stuff. But so same reason why we want to exercise and hone in our nutrition, all that stuff to take care of our health, we need to know that we need to go through HA recovery in order to take care of our health. So it's just like changing our perspective where at one point, yes, exercising and really honing in on nutrition was best for our health. Now at this moment in time, not saying it's forever, but right now, eating more and exercising less is what's best for our health. And so if we are having the true intention, which we should always have behind exercise and nutrition, which is genuinely wanting the best for our health and well-being, if we keep that perspective, keep that intention, then if we keep that in the front of our minds, it should be easy to go through HA recovery because we should know that this is what's truly best for my health right now. And there's absolutely no reason to feel guilty from decreasing your training intensity when that's genuinely what's best for your body. Like it got to the point where I would feel guilty by exercising too hard, by trying to restrict my food, if that makes sense, because I knew that that wasn't the right thing. I knew that wasn't what was good for my body, if that makes sense. You guys asked such good questions. We're like 2 in and I'm already like, whew. Also, if you don't really know me, if this is like one of your first videos for me, I talk very like, I feel like I sound tense sometimes, but it's because I'm so passionate and interested and invested about what I'm talking about all the time. This is from Ella. Hello, Ella, my girl. Once I've recovered, how can I get back into exercise comfortably without worrying about losing my period again? Great question. My thing that I try to explain to people, because so many people are like, oh, they get bummed out when they have HA because they don't think they'll ever be able to train kind of back to normal again, which I don't agree with. You 100% can train back to normal again, and I wanna be living proof of that. The caveat is just now that you're able to do it in a more mindful manner that is more suitable for your body, now knowing your body's threshold and your boundaries and your limits. To answer your question directly, how can I get back into exercising comfortably without worrying about losing my period again? That all just comes back to now you just need to adjust your levers. Just like in recovery, how we're like, okay, we need to turn down the lever of exercise, increase the lever of nutrition. The same thing is that you just want to make sure that you're not, that's what causes a lot of stress on the body, is when there's too much of the gap between exercising and eating. That big stress of an imbalance of calorie output versus calorie input is what's causing the big stress on your body, causing you to lose your period. So as long as we're keeping that gap in mind, in control, and using them proportionally, you can increase your training again without necessarily worrying about losing your period again, considering that you're having an adequate intensity. So you can get back to exercising comfortably again, just now you'll have to do it by making sure that you're eating some more than what you used to be eating, which made you lose your period in the first place. So I've been able to get back to my weightlifting schedule. I can hip thrust over 300 pounds now. My chin up count has increased, all that stuff, simply just because my training intensity is still there. I'm not doing crazy bouts of cardio like I kind of was last summer. I kind of was doing a little bit too much cardio for how much that I was eating. So now my training has increased its intensity again, but my food has also increased with it to balance out that gap and to make sure they're in proportion with one another, if that makes sense. If you want to exercise a little bit less, then just eat a little bit less. It's all about that proportion between the two levers. Now, I'm not saying you can necessarily get back to doing a place where if you were doing like 5 HIIT sessions per week, that pretty much no matter what is going to be too stressful on your body. But it definitely is possible to get to a healthy amount of exercise again, considering that you are fueling yourself properly. Next is ways to identify when you could be stressing the body out. Another really good question. I'm still learning this, but a big thing is to look at your biofeedback. So basically that has to do with your digestion, your sleep, that sort of thing, like the stress you're feeling. So like a big thing is if I'm not sleeping well, if I'm consistently not sleeping well, that's kind of where I know I'm not really eating enough. I might be exercising too much. That just means that my body's a little bit stressed out, meaning that it's not really letting me have a really peaceful sleep at night. So that's a big thing, a big indicator for me. Another thing is if you're feeling really chronically fatigued, that could be a really big sign that your body is really stressed out. If you don't feel like you can really get through your workouts, if you're feeling really lethargic after your workouts, that could be a sign that you're kind of overtraining, your body's stressed out. If you just don't feel like the quality of your workouts are there, if you're not having good mind to muscle connection, if you don't feel like you're having good thorough contractions, all of that can kind of be an indicator that your body is stressed out. Can you continue to lift, this is another good question. Can you continue to lift heavy in the gym as long as you lower the intensity? Meaning lower reps, less sets, longer rest, etc. I thought this was a really good question. I think, would this be a way to transition down from like your intense exercise that you were doing previously? Yes, I do think it can be a transition stage into more of a restful stage for you to recover, but I don't necessarily think like that's where you should be living during recovery, just because simply like heavy weights are heavy weights. Like they're still stressful on your body, and I get you, girl. Like there's nothing I love more, or there's nothing that makes me feel more empowered than a heavy freaking leg day. I get it. I'm obsessed with booty gains, but it's still a stress on your body. Like lifting really heavy weights is tough for your body. So I still personally would say to decrease the weight. I personally would rather have you go less weight, but doing a little bit more reps, to be honest. I personally think that's my advice. Again, I'm not a professional, but I would rather have you be in that range than pushing really, really heavy weight for like 3 sets of 5. Next is walking 8 to 10K steps a day too intense for recovery. Now, like I've been saying, walking is good for recovery. It simultaneously relaxes your body by recruiting your parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for relaxing your body, helps to decrease your cortisol levels, all that good stuff, which is what we want in recovery. In my opinion, again, I still think that 8 to 10,000 steps per day is a little bit too much, simply just because it still is movement. For me, like that used to be my step goal. I would walk anywhere. I would at least hit 10K a day and sometimes up to 15,000 steps a day, but like still in recovery, I decreased it. I used to walk like 40 minutes to an hour a day plus my training, which again isn't necessarily bad if you're eating enough, but for me in recovery, I made an intention to decrease my steps. So I probably went down to like 6 to 8K steps. I would only walk like 25 to 35 minutes, 40 at the most of walking, and I wouldn't do it every day, probably 5 times a week, 4 to 5 times a week. If you really wanna hit 8 to 10K steps in one day, maybe have that be your goal, but for only 3 or 4 of the days of the week, not every single day. How can I increase my calories? Good question. Eat more. Not kidding, but my biggest thing, which I've been preaching, you want to increase your calories slowly. There's no really rhyme or reason of how to do it. Just simply slowly try to add some more calories on a weekly basis. And I never tracked anything when I went through recovery. I just simply tried to make sure that I was eating a little bit more than I was previously. And I kind of would do it by eyeballing. I would eat similarly from day to day. So it was kind of easy for me to gauge if I was eating more or less. So for example, for my oatmeal, if I normally did, I'm just using this as an example, a quarter of a cup, then I went up to a third of a cup, then a half a cup, or just etc. Or if I only did like half a teaspoon of peanut butter in my oats, I would do a full teaspoon. You know, I would add an extra yolk in my eggs in the morning, that sort of thing, just to get a little bit extra calories. But doing it slowly helps to minimize unnecessary fat gain, and also helps you to have your appetite and your hunger like be at pace with you as you're eating more, because I know it's really hard for people to try to stuff like 2,500 calories in them when they were only eating 1,400 calories. Like I know that's uncomfortable, and it's obviously would be way harder to stick to by jumping like that. For gauge, anywhere about like 50 to 100 calories per week. You can go up to 50 to 200 calories per week. Totally up to you, whatever you want your pace to be. Can you cure HA through muscle gain? This is a really good question. Someone else asked this. Basically saying like, can you get your period back by gaining weight? Still gaining weight, but having it be majority muscle, not as much fat. My answer to that is not necessarily. I think it's definitely gonna help because you do just wanna have more mass on you. But the thing is, which is so cool that I learned about, is that body fat, and why females like need to have a little bit, the essential amount of body fat that a female needs is higher than the essential body fat that a male needs because of her uterus and all that stuff, but also because body fat actually plays a really big role in regulating estrogen. So yes, you can help your HA recovery by simply gaining weight, but you do, depending on how lean you are, you really may need that body fat percentage, an increase in your body fat percentage, in order to help regulate your estrogen levels. Tips for dealing with bloating and digestive issues when starting to eat more. I have a couple answers for this. One, this goes back to my recommendation to not jump from your low calorie intake all the way to the recommended 2,500 calories to eat per day, because it's just really gonna be a big stress on your body, a lot of stress on your stomach. You're obviously gonna feel bloated when you have that big and jump of an increase of calories. It's also kind of gonna play a role on your digestion because it's just a lot of food in a really short amount of time. I would recommend, like I said, slowly increasing your calories week by week. That's definitely gonna give your body time to adjust digestively in your gut, also giving your stomach time to expand, getting used to the greater food. And then a big thing is to try to eat smaller, more frequent meals. This is kind of gonna be individual to the person, but I'm just someone who's a really big believer that you should eat smaller, more frequent, smaller meals throughout the day. It also definitely helps with your digestion a ton and just keeping things moving, because your body knows more food is coming, as opposed to going really longer distances without food. If you only have 2 meals a day, your body needs to wait longer between those meals. It's gonna digest your food more slowly to try to slowly burn off those calories to give you energy throughout the time period of those 2 meals. Whereas if you're eating about 5 to 6 smaller meals per day, your digestion keeps up with it because it knows more food is coming. It can burn that food off more quickly because it knows it's getting a refill. Also, be on your water. Drinking about a gallon of water a day helps me tenfold with my bloating, you guys. I'm not even kidding. Walking is a big thing, helps to keep everything moving. Basically, bloating is happening because there's a kind of a buildup or delay in your digestion. So all of these things are helping with your digestion, which will in turn should help with your bloating. Also, just paying attention to which foods bloat you. Pay attention to when you feel bloated and what you ate before then, because you may have some food sensitivities with those foods. Last thing I'm gonna say is, if you're really struggling, try a greens powder. Hold up. I've just been obsessed with this, so I need to talk about it really quickly. Also, of course, try to just get your micronutrients in via whole foods, so fruits and vegetables. They have fiber in them, which is really good for helping with your digestion. But this greens powder, if you do struggle to get your fruits and vegetables in, this is from Teamy Blends. I am absolutely obsessed with it. There's absolutely no junk or any extra fillers. There's 16 superfoods in here, and it gives you pretty much everything you need. This has helped with my digestion tenfold. 10,000%. There's matcha in here, so I literally use this as like a matcha substitute in the morning. I mix it with Teamy Blends collagen as well, and I just put it with like warm hot water and drink it as if it's matcha. I love this stuff, not TMI, but like I go to the bathroom at the same time every morning basically after I drink this, I always go to the bathroom in the morning, so it's perfect. You look so shredded. How do you make sure you won't lose your period again? Good question. I actually did a whole video on this, I'll link up here, about how I'm staying mindful while cutting. But basically, concisely, just I'm making sure that I'm not eating dangerously low levels by tracking here and there, just to make sure that I'm eating enough, making sure my healthy fats are in a good place. I've been making way more intention to include healthy fats and specifically omega-3s. I'm still supplementing with omega-3. I'm also really making sure that I'm not doing tons of cardio. I'm not doing really chronic long distance cardio. I'm only doing 1 HIIT session a week. I'm not exceeding more than that, which I used to do more than that in the past. So things like that are ways that I'm trying to be more careful with my training. But again, I don't know for sure if I'm ever gonna lose my period again. I'm still learning. I'm going through this process with you guys and just documenting it. Can I try to lose weight again after getting my period back? Like, in my opinion, I would say yes, if done correctly. This is why I tried to document it, my journey, to show you guys how slow of an approach I took. So I think yes, you can lose weight after getting your period back, specifically because you might have overshot. You might have gained a little bit more weight than you needed to be able to maintain your menstrual cycle, but not more than you needed to get it back, if that makes sense. Sometimes you need an excess to make sure your body feels safe enough to get it back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to hold that level of body fat percentage to be able to maintain your period in the years to come, if that makes sense. So I think yes, you can lose weight as long as you're not getting into another dangerously low body fat percentage, or simply to a point that is just too low of body fat that it would be stressing your body out for yourself, even if you're not necessarily considered underweight. I'd love to hear your opinion on intermittent fasting. Do you think you can still IF and get your period back? Love this question. Actually, when I was first documenting my HA recovery, like way back in the fall, I actually registered our dietitian, an RD, commented on one of my videos, and she actually really explained that it's super, super important. Even just for females in general, it's not really good for us to intermittent fast, and especially during HA recovery, there should be no reason for us to be intermittent fasting, because when you're actually in the morning, when you wake up, your cortisol levels are the highest, which is your stress hormone, but rightfully so. That is what wakes you up in the morning, is there's a spike in your cortisol, and that's what causes you to wake up. It's so cool to me, I love it. And as we know, like if we're under eating, you know, that like causes a raise in our cortisol levels, it stresses our body out. So eating food helps to lower our cortisol levels, it de-stresses our body. So by us waking up in the morning when our cortisol levels are the highest and then going straight to working out or whatever, or even if you're not working out, just not eating in the morning really contributes to the problem with HA in general, which is high cortisol levels and having a stressed out body. So my opinion is, I don't think you can still IF during HA recovery to get your period back, and I honestly wouldn't really recommend it to any female. I just don't think it's necessary at all. If anything, I would rather have you, I guess, do a fast near the end of the day and just like try to have your last meal be at like 7 p.m. and then still have like a 12, 13, 14 hour fast until your breakfast in the morning, but you're still like getting in all your normal meals at like a normal time, you know, throughout the day, like normally spread, but you'll still have that window of letting your body clear everything out at the end of the day. How long was your first period? Mine only lasted 2 days, and mine was super light and it only lasted 3 days. It was still true bleeding, but it was only 3 days, and then from there it went to its, I think literally then the next month, it was its normal 5-day period. Tips for gaining body confidence / being okay with gaining fat, growing out of clothes, and having a better mindset around food and exercise. I have another video from way back that I'm gonna link here that kind of has to do with like mindset shifts that I made to be okay with weight gain. I'm gonna take this with the same direction that I took feeling guilty about not exercising as much and eating more and all that stuff. Like, being okay with gaining body fat, same perspective shift where you need to know like there's nothing to feel guilty about by exercising less because that's truly what your body needs. Same thing with being okay with gaining body fat. You need to be okay with it because it's truly what your body needs at this point. And like for me, I think I also think like with HA, it takes us digging a little bit deeper, getting rid of our superficial reasons of exercising to look good, to be skinny, or whatever our goal is, whatever it is, and throwing that away and realizing like, okay, let's get back to the root. Let's get back to the core. What is the purpose of exercise and health and eating well? It's to take care of ourselves. And sometimes gaining body fat is doing that. You know what I mean? Like, and I think we just have a negative connotation in society that gaining body fat is bad. It's not. It does not always mean that it's a negative thing. Sometimes it's the best thing you could do for health. If body fat didn't, if body fat didn't play any role with helping us and benefiting our body, we evolutionarily wouldn't have it. Like, there's a reason why we have body fat. It does play a role and it does have a good component of it. But also, again, with anything in life, too much of anything is bad. And so that's why people are like, too much body fat, it's bad, but that doesn't mean that all body fat is bad. So like 100% be okay with gaining fat. Like, know that it's what's best for your body. It's what's good for you in this moment. Like, it's truly what is best. It's what you need. And I know, like, and I'm telling you, like, I know it's easier said than done, especially with like gaining body confidence and everything, but just knowing that like the form that you love yourself in should be your best form. And sometimes your best form does not always mean it's your skinniest form, does not always mean it's your leanest form, does not always mean that it's your most muscular form. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an extreme. Sometimes your best form is a balance that's suitable for your own individualistic needs, habits, life, activity level, etc. So just own yourself, girl. Like, you should love yourself. Your healthiest you should be the easiest version of you to love. And sometimes your healthiest version is a little bit with a little bit higher body fat percentage, okay? But also that means there's a little bit more booty to love. Who doesn't love that though? I love that. Growing out of clothes, all the same concept, and I just want to like touch that because I get it. Like, I grew out of clothes too. Just know that like also as you grow older, as we're maturing into women, that was something I really struggled with. When I was 18, 19, my shape of my body changed a lot. Not only from lifting and stuff, from working out, but also just like going more through puberty. I was a late bloomer. So 18, 19, like I definitely experienced shifts in my body. My body doesn't react to food the way it used to all the time. I can't necessarily eat as much with as much leeway as I used to, all that stuff. Like, but just know that it's normal. We're becoming women, and also life is always changing. We're flowing beings. We're supposed to be ever changing, and that's just something to accept. So know that you're not going to look the same as you did a year ago, 2 years ago, and you're not going to look the same in a year. Your clothes are always going to fit you. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means you changed. Having a better mindset around food and exercise, just again viewing it as what you can do to truly benefit your health. I think it's gotten really warped. Food and exercise, you manipulate them to look a certain way. But at this point, food and exercise is for our health. And so instead of trying to look at it like in a way of exercise as punishment and food as like a guilty pleasure, that's not true. Food is fuel. Exercise is a privilege. Exercise is a form of freedom. Movement is a form of freedom. It is a privilege to be able to move our body, and it is also a privilege to be able to fuel ourselves with good food to make us more energized and live out this beautiful life. I think just making your shift around it and just seeing it as more of a state of abundance as opposed to looking at the relationship of food and exercise as a state of restriction, as a state of lack, as a state of punishment, that sort of thing. Like, being able to eat well and move our body is a freaking privilege, and that's something to raise our vibe, to raise us up, to build us up as people, not to tear us down or make us feel smaller or lesser or restricted or in a box, anything like that. How to start on building muscle or recovering from HA? Do I need the gym? It depends on what you mean by muscle, how much muscle. I have always said, ever since the beginning of my fitness journey, I have been in the gym. I built this body by working out in a gym. I'm not gonna try to sell you on any other way. Do I believe you can make some progress at home? Yes. Also, again, depending on how much muscle you want to build. If you really don't have a lot of muscle mass on your body, you haven't ever used any sort of resistance training, you for sure can build muscle at home out of a gym. And I would say to start, just do body weight stuff. If you have mini resistance bands, love those. Pop those on, do squats, donkey kicks, cable kickbacks. You can work on body weight stuff, push-ups, more Pilates-ish type movements, functional training. There's lots of stuff online that you could look up for those types of workouts. Supplements for HA recovery, are they worth it? 1000% they're worth it. I think this transformed my recovery. I think my changes in food and exercise was the foundation for my recovery. Then I do think my supplements kind of were the little tipping point that helped me get it back. So I took an omega-3 supplement an ashwagandha supplement to also help lower my cortisol levels. Omega-3 helps with just your hormonal health. I took maca root at one point, which is just an adaptogen to help to regulate your hormones as well, your sex hormones. And then Vitex was a huge one. It's also called chasteberry. This is also another adaptogen that just helps to naturally regulate a woman's cycle. Don't know how these things work, but they're all natural supplements, and those were like the big ones that I really took. From your videos, I already know that the training intensity should be decreased, but I'm wondering how long your weight training sessions have been while recovering. More like 45 minutes, or were they even sometimes an hour and a half long? That was a big thing I made an intention to set. I had my workouts be really no longer than 45 minutes to an hour. How much omega-3 did you take a day? Please hold. I don't remember if this is the same one that I took like in the heat of recovery, but this is 360 milligrams of omega-3 in here. Okay, is there such a heart rate that I should not exceed while exercising to prevent my body from stressing too much? Usually my heart rate is around 80 beats per minute, but as soon as I'm going for a walk, it goes up to 110. And during my training, it's around 120 to 140. Is this too much? Again, this is gonna be completely individual to the person, and I feel like it's a little bit too sciencey for me, but from the research I've done, that is something you wanna look at. There's ways to calculate your max heart rate, which I recommend doing, and trying to, I would say like your exercise during HA recovery should be no more than you hitting like 50 to 60% of your max heart rate. But from this, I don't think that's too much. I think that's normal. But yeah, I definitely would say that you should try to not exceed like 60% of your max heart rate during exercise during recovery. What can be the first signs of an ovulation / first period? Mainly for me, my signs were I just was feeling like crampy down there, you know what I mean? And I could just feel like pressure. And I don't know about you guys, but I can just like feel when my period's coming, and I was like, it's coming. Like, I know it's coming. And the big one was that I started to get discharge, which I had like no discharge when I was in the heat of recovery. Is it possible to continue working out and still recover? Yes, I personally worked out. I went from 6 days a week of training to 3 weight training sessions and 1 like full body functional training day. I still was able to go for some walks about like 4 to 5 times a week. I definitely think like resistance training, walking, and like ab training is definitely okay to be done during recovery as long as you're not like overexerting yourself. Another question is, how long can it take to get the period back? Dude, that's completely dependent from person to person. For me, it only took about like 4 to 6 weeks, but I know people that it's taken a few years. Then someone basically asked how to deal with kind of binge eating and getting back to intuitive eating without binging. I personally have never struggled with binge eating, but I know it's a very real issue. A huge piece of advice I always say is to don't label foods. Don't think something is good or bad. If you want something, have it. I promise you, you will eat less of it and crave the good, healthy foods that make you feel good when you simply just let yourself have whatever. I promise you. And there genuinely is nothing like, there's no such thing as a good food versus a bad food. Some foods are more calorically dense. Some foods make you feel better after the fact. Some foods are less calorically dense, and some foods make you feel a little crappier after the fact. That's it. So again, that kind of would be my biggest tip, is try not to label food, let yourself have things, and really just try to be mindful of what is best for your body. Eat for your body and also eat for your mind. Sometimes it means having a donut. Sometimes that means having grilled chicken, broccoli, and some brown rice. I know this video is so long, you guys, but I'd rather have you guys have the information and be able to skip through the video than me like leaving out important details. So now these last 2 questions I'm going to touch on are basically emails that got sent in to me with a little bit longer backstories and kind of, I guess, more of a loaded question. So this was from Carly. Hello, Carly. She explained that she kind of has struggled throughout her whole life of never really having like kind of a consistent periods because she was a dancer. Basically now she has really tried to implement lifestyle changes. She's gained about 17 pounds. She said she's increased her calories, increased her fat and carb intake. She's tried to de-stress as much as possible. She's implemented Vitex, which is a supplement that I talked about earlier. A lot more healthy fats, fish oil, lower intensity workouts, etc. And she still hasn't gotten her period back. She started doing this back in December. So it's been about 6 months now, and basically she's just asking, what do you do if you've tried everything and you're still not seeing the results you're looking for? I feel like I'm doing all the right things and still haven't gained my period back. I've seen the gyno and the doctor and they both don't seem to be worried even though I've expressed concern. I feel so lost. So first of all, this right here is exhibit freaking A of why I don't really believe in going to Western medicine for this type of stuff. I believe in Latin holistic healing, because what Western doctors do, like your gynecologists and stuff, which I don't want to hate on them, I'm just saying like this is the fact of the matter. If you're not trying to have a baby, they don't see any really point in you having a regular cycle. When having a regular cycle is really indicative of a woman's health, your youthfulness, etc. Like it is important. It's a very big indicator of your hormonal state as well, which down the line can lead to chronic other health issues if you don't address the hormonal imbalances. So I was surprised when I read that, but also not surprised that your doctors like weren't worried about having your period. My input, because someone else had said that to me before, that their gynecologists weren't worried that they weren't menstruating. And I don't want to say that you should be like super worried it's all for your health. I'm just saying it definitely is worth having the intention to fix the issue. So for me, I understand how hard it can be and frustrating and kind of discouraging it can be to be doing this for a long time, to be in recovery. My only thing I can think of is to, even if you're physically de-stressed, if you're still mentally stressed, even if you don't think you are, even if you think you're like, I'm doing everything, my ducks in a row, like it's good, I'm relaxed, still sometimes that frantic state, that micromanage, that like, is it coming back? Did I get my period? That still is like anxiousness, that's still stress that can 100% still manifest physically. So that's my main thing, big thing would be just to have trust now. Let go, this is when my spiritual side comes out, but I would just say try to trust. Trust in your efforts, trust in your body, trust in its ability to heal itself. Let it go. You're doing what you can do, and I would just say to try to trust that and let it happen and let it unfold. Because again, you might not seem stressed, but you still may be stressed enough that it's manifesting physically and still disrupting your system. And your body just still may need more time. You may not be doing anything wrong. It just still may need more time than you think. Another weird thing, I'm just open, you guys, this is my honest advice. You may think I'm crazy, you don't need to take it if you don't agree with it, but again, I'm pretty spiritual, and down in your ovary area, as you guys have you've probably heard of your chakras, which are basically just energy centers throughout your body, and we have 7 of them. And there's one called our sacral chakra, which is around, it's around our ovaries and stuff like that. And so this sounds crazy, but this was something that like I really did when I was really trying to get my period back, is I would meditate on this, and I would focus on, I would literally lay down, put my hands over my ovaries and focus on sending love and energy to my sacral chakra, to my ovaries, to open up that chakra, just to send energy, for energy to be moving in there, because energy truly does heal. I'm reading about it in a book. Energy, internal energy really does give the body the power to heal. So I just send my ovaries energy, focus on opening it up, opening up my chakra, getting things moving, turning on the lights back down there, because that's another thing, like when we're not menstruating for so long, I pictured it in my brain, because my brain works weirdly, I pictured it as like all the lights are off, no one was home. So by me like meditating on it, thinking of my ovaries, thinking of energy rushing into it, thinking of love, thinking of light, thinking of opening up the chakra, just wiping down the cobwebs in there, turn on the lights, like I'm telling you, could be crazy, but I personally believe that really helped me get my period back. And honestly, I got my period back in 4 to 6 weeks, which that's really fast for a lot of people. And I truly think it's because I meditated on it and I healed it with my mind and I sent energy to it. Just saying. Okay, next question. I think this may be an hour-long video, we'll see. Another email with some backstory. She hadn't had her period since the beginning of 2020. She had been working out, lifting weights, and doing HIIT. She lost some fat, gained some muscle. In April/March of 2020, she started to cut calories, which she says now was a little bit too low of a deficit. She dropped from 130 to 118 pounds from April to September. She's about 5'3", 21 years old. Fall of 2021, she went to see the doctor, and they basically told me all of what I already knew. Not eating enough, too much stress, and too much exercise. They told her she's still at a healthy weight and healthy BMI. That was me. I was still technically healthy weight, healthy BMI. They wanted to put her in birth control, but she did not want to gain her period back through that. She started to eat a normal amount in the last few months. She's now fueling her body with enough nutrition. She's eating more healthy fats, just more in general. She stopped doing HIIT. She still lifts weights. She said, do you think I have to stop lifting weights completely in order for my period to come back? I feel as if I'm eating plenty and also more ice cream because it's summer. So I realized I kind of touched on this previously. I think you can still lift weights to get your period back as long as you're decreasing the intensity, the time of your sessions, your frequency as well, and your weights that you're using. The overall rule of thumb, try to cut your training in half. If you're going 6 days a week, try to go 3 days a week. You know, if you're pushing 100 pounds, try to push 50 pounds. Give yourself more rest time in between sets. Don't do 8 exercises, go down to 5 exercises, that sort of thing. Woo! Okay guys, I pretty much touched on like every genre category of question that I received. So hopefully I answered everyone's question who sent something in some way. Again, thank you so much for sending in a question. I know this video is so long, I really hope it helped. Again, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I'm sending you so much love, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.